All right, we are here to discuss some Fear Street Part 1 and 2. And we got our man Deshawn in the house. What's going on, Deshawn?
What's good, everybody? Appreciate you guys for having me. And I'm excited to talk about Fear Street today.
All
man,
right.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you.
Appreciate it.
So, we can just jump right into it, man. Part 1. How do we want to start this? Okay.
Well, for those who don't know, Fear Street is a trilogy that's a horror trilogy being released on Netflix. It's being released in each Friday. The first 2 movies are out. The last one's coming out on Friday. What is it? The 16th.
Yeah.
Each movie takes place in a different time period. The first one was 1994. Part 2 is 1978. Part 3 is going to be 1666. And they're telling a connected story about a town that's kind of cursed by a witch.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we start in 1994 where the main characters are Dina. Is it Dina and Josh?
Yeah.
Dina and Josh.
A couple high school students.
Yes. Dina's girlfriend, who seems to be the target of the witch, whose name is was it Seraphir? Seraphir.
Oh, yeah, the witch Seraphir.
Yeah. So we didn't mention that. Yeah. So the town's cursed because of this witch Seraphir. All right. So basically, Seraphir has cursed the town and is involving her bones. Right. We're not gonna give too much away right this second, but it involves her buried bones, and these teenagers stumble across it essentially. And Dina's girlfriend, I can't remember her name.
Sam.
It's Sam. Okay. And Sam touches one of them and sees the witch. The witch sees her. And the whole movie is based on the witch just trying to get to Sam. And she conjures up all these former serial killers that she had possessed. And yeah, lots of killing going on in the movie.
Yeah, so the town is Shadyside. It's kind of the bad town next to Sunnyvale. They're the rich kids. Shadyside is the losers, for lack of a better term. And there's just throughout Shadyside's history, there's all of these just really tragic killings. Killing sprees.
Yeah.
One of them was obviously in 1994, 1978, the 50s, going all the way back through time, all the way back to 1666, which is when Seraphir was killed.
Yeah.
So Fear Street 1994 starts off at the mall, and there's, a young lady there working in a bookstore. They're closing the mall. A friend of hers, it calls her up, supposed to be coming by the store, but instead it's a Scream-esque ghost skull face.
That's exactly what I thought of. When I saw it, I was like, wait, are they just biting Scream here?
Like did they just remake Scream? Is that what this is about to be?
Yeah, I mean, it's just they're kind of,
it's a callback to it,
homage, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, the guy's he's in the black cloak and wearing a skull mask, and he goes after the woman who's working in the bookstore, chasing her through the mall. Eventually catches up to her, kills her. You see that he killed 5 or 6 other people prior to getting to her. Cop shows up, shoots him in the head, and you think it's all good, right?
Right.
It's just the beginning.
Yeah. So you move on to Dina and Josh show up, and everybody's obviously talking about the tragedy at the mall, right? And then you get the nugget that Dina and Sam have broken up recently. And Dina has some stuff that she's going to return to Sam. They're going to see each other at this big football game between the two towns. They show up there. She returns the stuff, and Sunnyvale are kind of dicks. And there's a little rivalry going on there. So after they were holding a vigil afterwards. Sunnyvale kids were following the Shadyside bus. Things get out of hand. Sunnyvale kids crash into the forest. Sam bleeds all over the witch's bones, and so now the witch is coming for her.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
I wanted to, a wise man once said when reviewing, I guess, a film or any type of media, or when you're giving criticism, you always got to start with love, right? You want to start positive. Right. So I'm going to start with love. I might be butchering her name, and I'm sorry, but I want to give major props to Lee Janiak because she wrote and directed, or at least co-wrote, and she directed all 3 of these films. And I know that's got to be a really taxing effort by her because, writing a film alone, like each page, if you cannot imagine, like a full page of a script is a minute on screen. So like she's writing all three of these scripts that have to be released within a week of each other, and then she actually delivers quality films. So like I'm giving her a lot of props for that. I thought aesthetically it looked great. I really liked the color scheme and the music we were talking about. Like I'm a bit too young for it, so I had to Shazam it. But that was it was some really dope tracks on there. Let me see what else. Let me look at my notes really quick. What else did I like about the film before I start getting into my asshole mode? Because it's it's coming. You guys.
See, usually
know.
I like to go the opposite way. I like to get the things I don't like out the way first, so I can spend the second half just.
See, that might be a better way to go about it next time. Because I'm really about to get into this once I get all the flowers out the way.
But you know what? So here's my things. Since we're giving our early thoughts about the movie, you guys know. I mean, well, Deshawn, like me and B aren't big on like horror movies,
Right.
But it had that goosebump type of feel to it, and kind of find out it's kind of based off of R.L. Stein's books or novels or whatever you want to call them, and I mean, it was kind of, it had a cheesy feel to it, but it was meant to be that way, right? Like it's a type of slasher. Yeah, it's a slasher that didn't take itself too seriously, which I appreciate. Right, because some movies don't do that. They want to be serious and they look goofy doing it. So when you're having fun with it, it's one of those things where you don't need to set your expectation too high. Just watch the movie and enjoy it. And I did, because going into it, I was just like, yeah, this doesn't look like my type of movie. But
it's a Netflix movie. You don't set your expectations too high with those anyway.
Right, but once I started watching, I was like, okay, yeah, it's fine. Yeah, I can easily get through this movie, no problem. So yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if that's a good or a bad thing, but yeah,
and it's targeting an age group that's not the same age group that you're going to be targeting with full on horror movies, right?
Sure.
These are the audience you're looking for are just coming into their teens. And they're not going to be critiquing the movie too heavily, right?
No.
And I thought the characters were fun. I didn't love the writing, but I mean, like you said, it's fine for a Netflix movie to me. I love the music. I like the way she used the music to kind of articulate the characters' thoughts and emotions in those particular scenes, because there was a lot of quick cuts between the tracks. Definitely. But just changing the point of view of the different characters, I thought it worked really well. I mean, I thought it was pretty enjoyable overall. I mean, obviously not a perfect film, but for what it is, I enjoyed it. And the fact that part 2 was coming next week, part 3 was coming the week after, it kind of held my interest a little bit more.
It made you intrigued enough to keep watching, like to keep tuning in every week, you know what I'm saying? Right. And like another one of the positives I wanted to get into real quick, I really liked how the kills delivered as far as creativity. It wasn't just the same, oh, you got cut in the throat, you got your throat slashed. No, there were some actual creative kills in there, mixed in. I thought they used the right amount of violence. It wasn't a Saw movie to the point where it's just OC gruesome, but at the same time, it wasn't watered down too much. Even though it is one of those watered down horror movies, it still did deliver. The kills made good timing. They didn't make you wait too long in between, unlike the second one, but we'll get into that. But as far as the stuff I didn't necessarily like about the film, the killers seemed a little bit unoriginal. Like we talked about Scream, like the guy with the axe and the potato bag over his face kind of gave me like the Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers vibe. Right. Like I feel like I've seen him somewhere before. The same thing goes with.
I think that's what they're going for. I think that's kind of what they're trying to go for. And it's just a witch controlling all of them.
Yeah, I think it was intentional. Like this movie was Scream, part 2 was Friday the 13th. I don't know what part 3 is supposed to be, but I think that was intentional. And sometimes that works really well. Sometimes you're just like,
I mean, it's hit or miss. You know what I'm saying? It all depends on your preference, and it all depends. Like, if you were a huge fan of Scream back in the day, if you might, go into this movie and either really enjoy it and appreciate that they're giving callback, or you might not think that it lives up to the standards. It's all about, taste. Movies is one of those arts where it's like really subjective, where no one's ever going to really have the same exact opinion on things, and if they do, they're probably just deferring to the other person.
Right. Yeah,
but like. the stuff that I didn't like, as other than the killers not being really original, I'm not a big fan of witches as far as horror movie villains. Like, if you had to give me a list of all the potential horror movie antagonists, I could have werewolves, vampires, zombies, hell, Frankenstein. I'd probably choose all of them before a witch, just because I'm not a big fan of that style.
Right.
But
Right.
if you're gonna do it with a witch, I feel like it should be more of what 1666 is headed towards, which is a much darker and more eerie feel to it, rather than this lighthearted sort of. It seemed like they wanted it to be a witch movie, but it sort of got some sci-fi-ish feel to it towards the end, if you know what I mean. Like, once they got towards the climax of the film.
Right. Yeah, I think I get why they chose a witch, right? To do 3 movies, because out of all the like the different like monsters or whatever, like that's the one that you can use to, conjure up all these different, killers from different time periods.
It's like the trump card.
Yeah. Right. So she can use whatever powers she wants or whatever. So I get it, and yeah, you're right. With the third one coming out, that seems more like the which type of movie that you're looking for. I'm not even sure what they're trying to, what that would be based off of. Like B said, you got Scream, you got Friday the 13th. The third one maybe like Blair Witch. I don't know, one of Blair Witch movies.
I'm thinking like maybe one of those Blair Witch movies. I saw this one Netflix movie. It might have been called The Witch. Honestly, it might have been. It's one of those Netflix movies. It was really slow and quiet. Like, it was the one you might not. I hate to spoil it, but it had like the goat in it at the end. You might not have seen it.
I'm sure I haven't seen it.
But yeah, it seems like it gives that type of feel to it. If I can come across it, I'll definitely tell you what it is. But it definitely gives that type of vibe with the color hue, at least.
Right. Yeah. So in the movie, basically the whole movie is them trying to escape the killers that have come from different time periods that the witch brought back to life, and they're trying to figure out how to defeat the witch. So Josh, who he's been, he's part of this group, I guess, right? It's him and this other girl, they're on the computer, and they've pieced this whole thing together of Sarah Fear, and he figures out early on that this is Sarah Fear's doing, and she's bringing these people back to life, and this
the Discord before Discord.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Right. So, he's chatting with somebody, and they put that together. You don't actually see who he's talking to. I want to touch on that a little bit later too. But basically the whole movie, they're figuring out ways to stop her, because once they realize we can't actually kill these people, no matter what we do, they come back. He realizes at the last moment that the way to stop them is to make her think you're dead, or her target is dead, and her target is Sam. So they realize early on that Sam is the target, not the rest of them. They'll kill whoever is in their way. So they conjure up this plan to kill Sam and bring her back to life, and I'll trick the witch, and it'll all be good. All right.
And I want to say, just not to cut you out there, but I saw this almost this kind of plot line in another Netflix movie recently. It wasn't a horror movie. I don't know if you guys saw it. It was called Awake. It was kind of a sci-fi movie where there was an event, and then all of a sudden nobody could fall asleep, right? And so what happens is you start feeling the effects of sleep deprivation. People's brains start kind of swelling, right? And they get dumber basically throughout the movie. Yeah. And it's happening at an accelerated rate, which it wasn't a great movie, but I enjoyed it because I actually really liked watching the cast just do dumb things, but it had a reason for it. Because normally you do dumb things and it's just like, well, that was stupid, but then why they're being dumb. But anyway, at the end it turned out, oh well, if you die and then come back, it kind of restarts your system, and now you can sleep again. And I don't know if they were in contact or if this is just a thing that's going around at the Netflix offices right now, but I don't want to see that again.
Yeah.
Right? I don't want to see that ending again. And also, I don't know if we mentioned what it is that has the killers coming after her. It's that she bleeds on Serafir's bones,
Yeah.
and that kind of marks you. And so, in theory, the killers are only going after the person who's like marked by Serafir, but it was kind of inconsistent in the movie. Like sometimes they would ignore people, sometimes they wouldn't.
Yeah. It does very apparent at the end.
Yeah.
Actually, no. Now that I think about it, it's not that inconsistent, because what they did was they put her blood on them.
But even, when they were in the hospital, there's a scene they're in the hospital, and the killer comes in there and he kills all the nurses in there. They weren't connected to it.
Oh, yeah.
He killed the doctor too.
Yeah.
He killed the doctor.
He killed Sam's boyfriend, who was just standing there. It's like, I mean, it's not a huge deal, but it was just something that I noticed.
It's just one of those continuity errors that kind of like makes you, it kind of bugs at you if you like see it when it happens. Like if you don't recognize it, it probably won't matter to you, because it's one of those things where I guess like you kind of can or can't see it, but at the same time, if you do catch it, like it will kind of bug at you throughout the film. Like, so why didn't this person get killed?
Right.
That's a good point, because when the most recent killer that was in the mall in the Scream costume, when he broke into that girl's house,
and it's another friend, Kate.
He breaks into Kate's house. Kate and her friend. That's not her boyfriend, just whatever he was.
Simon, I think his name was.
Yeah, he doesn't attack them. He finds the bloody shirt with Sam's blood on it. He's just kind of looking around, like almost like he's smart enough to understand that, okay, the trail kind of goes cold here. Let me go somewhere else and look. Right.
Yeah, sort of the Michael Myers vibe.
Right. But again, to B's point, like he doesn't attack them. He doesn't go on a killing spree. He understands, okay, this trail goes cold. Let me go look elsewhere. But other points of the movie, it's just like, let me go ahead and just kill everybody.
Yeah, and the other part, and this is more of a personal thing. We mentioned Kate. She was a close friend of Dina. Her and Simon, are with that group. They're with Dina and Josh and Sam, and they're trying to figure out how to stop these killers. Right.
Yeah.
And they're fully on board with it. They're going through these plans. They lured all the killers into this room using Sam and using some blood. They got him in there. They locked him in there. They set him on fire. Killers all come back immediately, and they run off. They lock themselves into another room, and it's at this point that Kate says, "Listen, we tried, but put your girl out in the hall and let's get this over with." And it sounds cold, right? But you want all them kids to die?
You gotta imagine being in their shoes, like, fam. Like you said, I did everything I could. I've ran across town, lit these dudes on fire. Like, I'm not about to keep on doing this to myself for your girlfriend, bro.
I get it. I get it if like immediately she's like, "Oh, F Sam, like I'm not doing this." But she was with you. She fought the monsters. Right? She went with this plan. She went through it, killed them a couple times, and they kept coming back. And she's like, "Bro,
she's like, I had enough. Like, I'm done.
What are we supposed to do? I got nothing else."
And that's when Josh just happens to come up with the plan. Like, oh wait, well, because that's the other thing too, right? Josh, he has a crush on Kate, right? That's his thing.
Oh my God,
all right,
they messed that storyline up so bad.
yeah. But at that moment where Kate is kind of making herself look like an ass, that's when he gets a bright idea. Oh, you know what? But wait, there was another survivor. Like that's one. Yeah. I happen to forget that there was a survivor.
Yeah, and like that important ass detail that probably could have saved us a lot of time.
The most significant detail of all of these stories.
And I'm telling you, man,
you spend your life going over.
You want to talk about some reading comprehension and critical thinking and under duress? I mean, that's what they did, right? Because he happened to catch that little detail when reading the article. Wait, okay, we had a survivor. Oh, she actually says that she died, but then she got revived. Maybe that's the key.
And mind you, the girlfriend is in the hall at this point. They grabbed Dina, held her back, and they threw Sam out in that hallway.
They went through the entire the island situation where you get booted off, and they can't do anything about it. They booted her into the hallway, all for them just to snatch her back in right before it was too late. I'm like, fam, y'all are doing too much. And another thing that kind of bothered me was like the inconsistency of how long does it take for the killer to get back up? You know, that was kind of like on and off because the first one was the guy with the skull mask. I think it kind of took him like a couple days before he showed up again.
Yeah, and in the second movie, not to jump ahead too much here, but they kind of hinted that once they get killed, they get brought back. When somebody touches the bones again, or touches some remains, or bleeds on them again, and they all get revived. But obviously, that wasn't the case all the time in part one. They set them on fire, and I mean, they were gone. Right? Like they were all burned up, and they regenerated immediately.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then also, the guy with the axe, he walks and then he kind of works himself up to a run.
Yeah,
right?
I'm not gonna lie, I like that.
Except for when Sarah was in the hallway.
Yeah, that was that blew me a little bit. But I do like that kind of part of it. Because it was like that's one of those subtle things that like really adds to the like I guess fear of it, because you see him walking towards you and he's like flipping his axe around and then he starts picking it up and then running towards you and it's a full on sprint. And it's like that tension building. I really like how they did that with him. I wish they would, like you said, be consistent with it. But I also one last thing about 94 that I didn't like, that love story between Josh and Kate.
Yeah.
Bro, they botched that so badly.
Man,
like if you were gonna end it like that, there was no point in having that love story there.
So do you want to talk about that scene? Because like it was.
I mean, we might as well.
So I mean, it was probably the most gruesome scene, but like it also made me laugh.
It was the most creative kill of the whole movie. Like it was the best kill of the movie for me. But it was
I started laughing, man, because all right,
Bro,
okay.
So to just to explain what happened, they go to a grocery store to have their kind of final stand,
the final battle.
They were gonna drown Sam in the lobster tank.
Well, that wasn't the original plan.
No, they were gonna give her.
They're gonna OD her.
OD on because Kate's a drug dealer.
And her friend, had his brother who had OD'd. He talked about it in the beginning. He OD'd a couple years ago, but they brought him back with some adrenaline.
And so they remember the exact combination of pills that the brother took to OD and be able to come back, and they gave that to Sam. But they only got through 2 rounds because she had to take 2 handfuls of pills, wait 5 minutes, and then take the third. Otherwise, she would die. Otherwise, in the way they were doing it was safe. But otherwise,
now, can I point out real quick? Can I point out that was probably the most realistic part in the whole movie? Some young teenagers using just
drugs,
ridiculous rationale to solve a problem is probably the realest part of the whole movie. Hey, well, this is that combination for this person whose body type is completely different from yours, but just do it exactly the same way and you should be good, right? Like that sounds about right. That sounds about right.
And then after she drowned her, fuck CPR, right? She's got water in her lungs. I think adrenaline is the answer. Stabbed her in the chest
like 5 straight EpiPens.
Yeah.
What?
I was like, yo, she's dead anyway.
She's dead from the EpiPens. She's overdosed on EpiPens right now.
So they're doing this in the grocery store. That part
pissed me off.
Yeah. They lost some of the pills, so she couldn't go through with that. So they look and they see the lobster tank. Like, I'm going to drown you in the lobster tank, and then we're going to bring you back, right? So Dina's holding her underwater. So Dina's a little occupied. Josh and Simon are on, I guess, ghost patrol, rolling around the rest of the grocery store. And at this point, and Kate, at this point, I was convinced that none of these people were going to die. I was like, oh, this is more of a kids. It's more of a kids' horror movie.
Like
they're going to make it.
Movies.
Yeah, it's going to be fine. And then I forget which one it was. I want to say maybe the skull face starts fighting with Kate. And I'm like, okay, somebody's about to come and save her. Somebody's going to come and save her.
I thought it would be Josh. I was thinking my whole time, I was like, yo, save your girl, dude. Save your girl.
Man, I was too worried about the candy. He was too slow.
and then they shoved Kate's head through a bread slicer.
Bro, that was sick.
Done.
Listen.
It's done. Like,
when her head came out the other end, I was just like,
and it was just a
bread.
They didn't take some cake and slice it.
Bro, but not only that, like they really did put that girl through the ringer because she got stabbed in the gut before that, slammed her face in the cake, and then slammed her on the table, and then rolled her through the cake or the bread slicer, and then Josh is standing there at the end, like, damn, I'm too late.
And he was very not emotional about it. Just like
like this girl just gave you your first sexual experience ever. You just watched your head go through.
He said, "I got the first base. I got what I wanted."
My dude, like, it was a high school crush, man. It wasn't gonna last anyway. So I thought that, I was like, okay. Up until that point, I think they're all gonna survive.
Yeah.
Kate goes through the bread slicer, and then immediately Simon gets an axe to the head.
Yeah. Like, well, as soon as she got slashed up, I knew he was next.
Yeah,
you automatically knew.
Yeah.
So, I was surprised Josh lived to the end.
I figured it would be Josh and Dina at the end. I figured because it kind of started. Well, I mean, the movie didn't start with those two, but like the story kind of started with them.
I mean, it kind of centered around them.
Yeah. So I figured they would survive. But then at the very end, so okay, they revive Sam, and the monsters disappear apparently. And they think it's all good, and that's the other thing too. They go back home, and can I also point out, Shady Side has like the worst parents in
worst.
There were no adults in it.
There was like two adults in a whole, three adults in a whole movie.
Worst, most incompetent, useless people.
And this carries over. This carries over to the second movie too, because that summer camp had no adults. Did you know that?
Right.
You notice that?
Yeah, there was one. There was one adult, and she went crazy.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
Who was the adult?
The nurse.
Oh, yeah, the nurse. You're right. Yeah.
There were no other. Like,
they got her out the paint early.
It was run by campers who had graduated.
Yeah, because like she didn't even get. I don't even think she got killed. Like she got arrested. I never saw her.
Got arrested. Yeah.
And also, while we're on it, speaking of the nurse, we're kind of jumping ahead a little bit. But was that the same person that Kate dropped her, was it her little sisters off to? And
I think it probably was. They reuse a lot of the actors, which is another thing that I actually really like. I like seeing all
but it confused me because
come back as different characters.
It confused me. I was like, is she supposed to be
66 too? They're gonna I've seen the trailer. You reuse all the actors from the first two.
Yeah,
but are they the same people? Right? Like, is that nurse the same nurse? Okay, is that the same? Okay.
Is there going to be different roles, just the same characters?
It's like American Horror Story.
Same actors in a different time period.
Okay,
it's like American Horror Story. Every season is a totally new story, but they use the same cast.
Okay, all right. We'll get into part 3 in a second, because all right, we'll get into that. I think they might be doing something a little bit different.
One last thing on that part about the adults. I hated the police officer, bro.
Yeah, you know why,
bro? He is trash.
He's
like just trash at his job.
He is
not even just as a person. He's just trash at what he does.
It was just really weird that they had to throw the scene in there of him locking up the one black dude in the movie.
Bro,
we're gonna talk about that too.
Well, not the one, but I mean,
yeah, one or two.
Or graffiti.
One of the couple.
When you got serial killers running around.
Yeah, that's who you target. Yeah, that sounds about right.
I also found myself asking, where is Josh and Dina's father? Like, where's their parents?
They kept on mentioning them. They kept on mentioning like, "Oh, Dad will be home soon." Well, where is he? Yeah, pick up the extra shit. Like, what happened?
Like stuff like pizza in front of us. Like, he needs to come home.
He turned on the news and was like, "I'll see y'all in the morning."
So I got a couple conspiracy theories. Theories, not conspiracy. Some theories about part 3 and how it's going to conclude. But let's get to part 2 first. But let's finish up part 1. So they're back at Dina and Josh's house with Sam, and it's all good. Josh ordering pizza. He's back online talking to his friend online, and
Sam tells her mother that I'm with Dina whether you like it or not, because they kind of hinted that Dina's or Sam's mother didn't like that.
And we there's one part we didn't mention earlier. When they came up with the plan to kill Sam and bring her back, they actually tried to call the survivor.
Right.
Yeah,
right. They tried to call her, and they left her a message because she didn't pick up.
Just another really teenage thing, right? Like, these people are trying to murder me. I mean, let's just hop on the phone and see if she's there.
Yeah. Not call 911 or anything like that. Let's call this person.
Did they just have phone books sitting around classrooms like in the 90s? Because like, what are the odds the one classroom that you run in just has an entire big ass, like they had 3 phone books in there.
Yeah.
They had 3 phone books spread out looking for this one lady's phone number.
Because that's another thing.
Were struggling back then.
That's a great point, Deshawn. Because back then, there were no smartphones.
Nah, yeah, I figured that much. But like,
Yeah.
I'm not even doubting that they'd have a phone book, but just like 3 of them in every classroom, like.
And you'll be able to
the yellow
narrow
pages,
it
the
down
white
to
pages, and then the other one.
yeah. So they called her and she didn't pick up, so they left her a message. And then at the end of the movie, she calls back, and Dina's like, "Look, you called too late, man. We already took care of it or whatever." And she's like, "What are you talking about? You can't take care of it, you know?" And she's like, "Yeah, no, we killed Sam and brought her back to life." And she's like, "Yeah, that doesn't work." Right. And as soon as she says that, Sam stabs Dina, right? Because she's
that
possessed.
was really one of my favorite parts because that really caught me off guard, and I love
me too.
Like stuff catching me off guard in like slasher films. Like I didn't see that coming at all.
Honestly, I didn't see Dina surviving it either. I thought she was just gonna be dead, But then when she, when they pan to Josh, and Dina, puts her hand on him, they have she wrestled Sam and tied her up with phone cord. Okay.
Talk with Tom and Jerry shit is this.
So that's pretty much how it ends, right? They say, okay, we got to find a way to save her. So
I just want to say also, she would not have survived because the other dude already killed all the nurses and doctors in that town.
Yeah, like there's no medical help at all.
Now the biggest question,
you stole the ambulance, so they couldn't even come get you.
Right.
But that was the biggest question I had going into part 2 because it picks up right from part 1. Mm-hmm. So what happened? What kind of healing magic does she have to where she gets stabbed? Mm-hmm. She's able to wrestle Sam, tie her up with phone cord, toss her in the trunk, drive over to what's the lady's name? C. Berman. Drive her to her house, climb through the window. There's no blood on her clothes or anything, and she's able to sit there the whole time while she tells her story. Yeah, but like all part 2 is they're telling the story of when she was in summer camp, and what happened, that incident. But but it's like, Dina, you don't need medical attention. You just got stabbed though.
I love the fact that she's telling them. C. Berman is telling these kids, there is no way that you can end this. Like, she is coming after you. She's coming after you till she kills you. Now sit down and I'm gonna tell you this 1.5-hour story.
Like we're not leaving. We're not gonna close or lock the windows that you broke in through. Like,
and by the way, there actually is, but we tried to, we couldn't find the body, so there's no way. Right, like that's pretty much what it is. Like, man, what a dirtbag, right? Like, there is a way. Like, just because you failed,
right? Don't mean we gotta live with this shit for 20 years.
so okay,
and at the beginning of part 2, they show C. Berman. She's in her apartment, and you can kind of tell she doesn't really leave her apartment.
Antisocial, introvert.
I mean, she's got all the locks on the doors, all the locks on the windows. Everything's kind of closed off. And you get the impression that she does that because when the killers come, if they don't see her, they just leave.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, kind of silly to me because, like, they broke into other people's houses, but whatever.
Just fine. They unlock those doors and just open them, and hers is just different because it has 15 military-grade locks on it?
They looked in the window. They said, we're going to catch her later.
Well, here's the other thing, too, because she said it a couple times. She said it a couple times, right? She said at the beginning and at the end, your best bet is to get as far away as possible. Why didn't you?
You're still here.
Yeah.
Well, that's the other thing I wanted to, like, okay. They make these little comments like nobody can get out of Shady Side. And I'm just like, get in a car. Like, you have one, right?
Like, are the borders shut off?
You put your girl in the trunk. Just leave. But, even at the beginning, and I think this is going to be something that comes up in the third one. But at the beginning of the movie, Sam and Dina are arguing, and Dina is talking about how she broke up with Sam because she moved to Sunnyvale, right? And Sam's like, I'm 30 minutes away. Right. And she's like, you might as well be on another planet. You know that. Yeah. And so, like, they just keep implying that people really just can't leave. But Sam left, so I don't know.
Yeah, like, it's like little plot holes and inconsistencies like that keep it from, like, really being an A movie. Because when you have that many different stuff, that it kind of just takes away from it, makes it kind of boring, and it makes it kind of hard to look at because now you keep thinking about, well, this doesn't make sense and that doesn't make sense, rather than just enjoying the film for what it really is. That's kind of why I was like not a fan of the writing at all because it was just too much of that. You can get away with it a few times, but like once it starts piling up, it becomes kind of a headache.
But to be fair, they still have a third movie, and that might clear up some things. Like I have ideas about why that is. But let's go ahead and dive into part 2. Okay, so part 2 takes place in 1978 at Camp Nightwing, and C. Berman from part 1 is telling the story of her and her sister who are at this summer camp, which, as we mentioned, doesn't have any adults except for a nurse for whatever reason.
And she's psychotic.
Yeah, the nurse. Yeah, we'll get to that. But the nurse has a very good reason to be psychotic.
Yes.
But so this is kind of the Friday the 13th. The Jason movie. They're at the summer camp and the killer shows up and starts killing. You get a lot more of the Sunnyvale hates shady side. Shady side. Yeah. Sunnyvale hates shady side, and they don't ever really give a reason other than we're rich, you're not. But they have the two separate kind of factions Capitalism. There, and they rub each other the wrong way, right?
Yep.
And you get the one sister is kind of a delinquent.
Ziggy. That's the little one, right?
Yeah, and it's played by I don't know her name, but she was Max on Stranger Things. On season 2, I believe, season 2 or 3. So her sister, Cindy, is kind of the ambitious go-getter. She's trying to get into college, wants to get out of shady side and everything.
I really hate to cut you off, bro, but I gotta say the girl that played Cindy, I'm looking up her name right now as we speak. Yeah. Emily Rudd killed it, bro. Like she was, in my opinion, the best actor in that entire film. She kind of carried it. And she really did her thing when it came to her character. So I got to give her major props.
Yeah. She was excellent. I thought overall the acting was better in part 2 than in part 1.
Even a lot of these kids were like young actors that did really well too. I got to give them props.
Yeah. Even though I enjoyed part 1 more, I do think, like I said, that part 2 was a stronger film. I thought the acting was better and everything. But so Cindy's a counselor for this is her first year. Her sister Ziggy is a troublemaker. She's got 4 strikes, which I don't like. What is that? How is that a thing? It's 3 strikes. Like there's no 4, there's no 5.
Are you getting 4 strikes in?
Yeah. So it starts out with Ziggy on the run. She's running from somebody, right? And eventually these people, somebody pops out in front of her, as they do in horror movies, punches her in the face. She's bleeding.
Close under.
Yeah. So a group of kids grab her. And they start talking about Sarah Fear and how she got hung from this tree, and it's the actual tree, right?
Yeah.
And so they tie her up and they hang her by her hands. One crazy Sunnyvale girl grabs a lighter and acting like she's going to set her on fire, burns under her arm, and then one of the student or the child counselors shows up and is like, hey, let her down. This is gone too far.
Yeah.
And immediately he's like, Ziggy, you're out. This is strike 4. And so the sheriff from part 1, much younger version of him.
That's a counselor.
He's a counselor. He kind of steps in and is like, if she leaves, she's going to tell people about her burn. And what do you think is going to happen then? It's like, okay, well, you get 1 more strike then. Yeah. And I'm like, well, when she leaves next week, she's going to tell anyway, but whatever.
It's not going to be healed by then, but okay. But I think this film also tried to make Nick more of a likable character, or try to make up for him being such a worthless piece of shit in the first one. I'm sorry to use profanity like that.
No, that's all good. No,
but I didn't buy into it. Like I just had too much. I still had the first one in my mind of him just being useless as the only cop in the entire town.
Well, but also it tried to do that until the end, right? And then it showed you why he was so worthless and everything. Because he's a Sunnyvaler, and he's got he's kind of a legacy. His father was a previous police chief, and somebody else in his family was the mayor and stuff like that. So he kind of had that to live up to. She gets burned. She goes off to see Nurse.
What's her name? I can't even remember her name.
It's not Taylor, because it's Ruby Lane, Nurse Lane.
Yeah, I think it is Nurse Lane.
Because her daughter's was like the daughter's name was Ruby Lane. The
right.
daughter's name was
Ruby Lane. She was Nurse Lane.
Nurse Lane, yeah, because the daughter was one of the killers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once I'm just making sure.
Nurse Mary Lane. Yep.
Okay. Well, if you want to be faster than me, that's fine. So she goes out to see Nurse Lane, and she gets the feeling that there's something seriously wrong with Nurse Lane right now. Like they have a good relationship, but right now Nurse Lane is really she's not all there.
Nurse Lane seems to be the only person in camp that treats her decent or is nice to her.
Right. But she's bandaging up her arm, and she's just doing it really, really tight. And she's talking about her daughter, who is Ruby Lane, who was one of the killers. She murdered 7 of her friends and then killed herself with a straight razor. Right. She had shown up in the first movie as well. So she's talking about her, and she's talking about how, killing people isn't always murder. Sometimes there's a good there's a reason for it. And sometimes that's a good reason. Sometimes it's necessary. Ziggy's kind of freaking out a little bit at this point. And she's like, hey, how about you stop? And I got to go. Not long after that, Cindy is with her boyfriend, and Nurse Lane shows up, and she just looks at him. She's like, listen, you're going to die today, one way or the other. And she comes at him. I don't know if it was a bat or whatever she had.
She had a knife.
Maybe it was a knife.
Yeah.
So she comes at Tommy, who's Cindy's boyfriend. He fights her off, kind of knocks her out. Police come. This is
I could not have lost that fight, bro. I kept thinking to myself while they were tussling, like, dog, you are an 18-year-old teenage boy. This woman is in her 60s at least. You better not lose.
Yeah.
You're gonna make athletes look horrible.
Yeah. As you were pointing out earlier, though, Deshawn, the police show up, they arrest her, see that there are no adults there, and leave.
Don't nobody come back. Don't nobody shut this shit down after you just arrested the only adult there for trying to kill one of the students, for trying to kill one of the campers or counselors, and then you just leave a bunch of teenagers to go ahead and fuck around in the woods. Once again, like in part 1, with nobody who can give you any kind of medical attention. Nobody, no type of hospital within 20 miles, bro. Yeah, if you get a cut, you're done.
Yeah.
All right. No. Go ahead.
Okay. So, excuse me. At this point, everybody's a little bit freaked out. A little bit. Tommy is really scared because she's like, you're going to die today. The rest of them are kind of laughing it off because it's Color Wars.
Yeah. Okay. They got this big game of tag tonight. We don't care about the lady that just tried to slaughter us.
Right. Right.
What?
And so, Cindy is the only one who's really trying to console him and figure out what's going on. Long story short, her and another a former friend of hers, they get the nurse's diary. It has a map in it. They start looking around the camp, and they find a witch's sign. I guess kind of underground a little bit.
Right.
And this is where, everything kind of goes sideways at this point. Tommy gets underground, and it kind of fully takes over him. The witch fully takes over him. He's possessed now, and they're just standing there talking. It's Cindy, her former friend, her boyfriend, and Tommy. They're just standing there talking, and all of a sudden, friend's boyfriend has an axe in his head.
Yeah,
and it's on from that point on.
Yeah, once the killing starts, they're rolling from there. It's a bit of a bloodbath. Way more kills than the first one.
Yeah, and so basically what happens is, they're like underground, and they're the I don't even want to call it the layer, the witch's layer, or whatever it is, and they're escaping from the possessed boyfriend, and like some rubble comes down and separates the two, right? Right. So it's Ziggy and her friend that are kind of trapped down there, and the killer.
Cindy's trapped down there with her ex-friend.
Former friend.
Cindy. I'm sorry, Cindy. Yeah.
Back in the day.
So Cindy's down there.
Because Cindy's a snitch. She said that multiple times.
Yeah.
Never mentioned not gonna let her forget that. She was not gonna let her forget.
Apparently, it was when they were children, and she's just not letting it go.
At all. So he has the easy way out. So he walks outside. Let me go to camp and start killing some kids, right? And they're trying to figure out how to get out there, and then they discover everything, right? They're reading the Nurse Lane's journal, and they're putting the clues together. They find, I don't know, what is it, like a heart or something, like that's
I mean,
this
there was
giant heart.
a bunch of living organs is what it was. It was like a pile of living organs.
It had flies around it, like I couldn't tell.
So I'm assuming those flies, when they feed off of it, that's what and that's what she's using to possess all the people, because every person that's been possessed, the fly comes near them and kind of whispers in their ear. All right. So I assume maybe
I
that's
didn't even notice that.
Yeah. Like even like the very first the beginning of the first movie, that's what happens to the kid. The fly comes near his ear and whispers in his ear, and that's why he's like, "What?" Like he heard somebody talking to him.
Okay.
And she's like, "Nothing." Yeah. So I'm thinking, the fly swimming around this thing, feeding off of this thing, is kind of like
It's
parts of her. Yeah. So they see
Turns
that,
out
they're like,
this is really a tale about infectious disease.
Yeah. So okay. They see that and they're like, "That's weird. Let's keep it moving." Right. And
Cindy's friend touches it first. And
that's right. Yeah. That's right. But she saw the witch from after touching it or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
And then breaks her ankle worse than Conor McGregor.
Oh my God. Yeah, there's a bunch of like corpses around, and she's scared. She's looking from one corpse to the other, trying to figure out how to get out, and she trips, and it's just bone.
Now,
I will say they did a great job with the special effects in that aspect. Yeah. Like, even though it was gross to look at, they made it realistic. Like, and she sold it too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, one of the probably the funniest part of the movie. Again, like there was a kill in each movie that just made me laugh, and it was when they got to the bottom of the outhouse, right? Because nobody noticed that they built the outhouse, right? And they're trying to climb up through the toilet.
Well, no, because Ziggy and a friend saw them down there.
Yeah, and they lowered down like she locked the girl that tried to burn her arm with the lighter. She locked her in there with a bunch of roaches and spiders. Gave that girl a panic attack of her life.
Yeah,
and it was hilarious to me too, because they locked her in there and
just forgot about it.
Her and the sheriff, mind you, the future sheriff did that.
Yeah,
but she, when everything starts going down, she's like, "Oh man, I should probably go get her out." Right? Yeah, I'm not a terrible person like she is.
Yeah.
So. Goes to the outhouse, opens up the door, and this girl's ready to fight. Yeah. Understandably so. And at first Ziggy's kind of like, "Yo, stop!" Like, she's kind of pulling back and looks like she's about to catch a beating. And then she said, "I had enough of this." She punched that girl one time and put her to sleep.
Yo, what happened to her after that? Like, I don't think I ever saw her again in the movie.
I think she got on the bus.
They closed her back up and went about their business. And I think, whenever she woke up, she got out of there.
But the killer gets into the outhouse, right? As Ziggy and another counselor are trying to pull.
Alice was Cindy's friend.
Yeah.
They're trying to pull her up on a rope with a bucket at the end. Like, she's sitting on the bucket. They're lifting her up.
And the killer comes in, chops the dude's head off, and he just flies. He falls through the toilet and down this cave, and he's just like
right on top of Alex's broke ankle.
I felt so bad for Alex. It's broken already. They dropped you, and then the body falls on top of you.
So it's just like a triple threat, yo.
He took that kid's head off in one shot.
One clean slice, bro. Didn't get another clean hit the whole movie.
But somehow Ziggy gets away from him in that same room.
Yeah.
In that tiny confined stall.
Yeah.
Like, I guess she caught him admiring his work or something, and she was gone.
So. All right, kind of speed this up. There wasn't too much more detail. Oh, no. There was one big detail.
Which shocked the hell out of me.
Yeah, they killed a few kids.
Nobody was safe.
No. But they revealed more about the witch's power, right? She made some deal with the devil. She had to have her hand separated from her body. So, her body was buried in one area, hands buried in another area. And they, the way to break the curse is to join the hand and the body back together.
That's what they think.
That's what Nurse Lane was trying to do, essentially, right? That's what she's been trying to do. And
I don't think that's true. but that's what
They've
the
been
characters
wrong every
think.
time they thought
Right.
they had an out to this point.
Because
Like, they just
you know why
get it wrong.
it doesn't make sense to me. Like she cuts her hand off with Satan's rock or whatever they call it to give her eternal life, so she can haunt this town forever.
Yeah.
And so they're all thinking, hey, it's because we disturbed her bones, and if we put her bones back and put the hand back, then we'll all be good. But no, she wanted the hand separate. So why would putting the hand back fix it?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like that's breaking the curse. It's breaking her power, right? Like the witch doesn't, like Sarah doesn't want it back. She wants to keep it separate. That's why I think she's fighting so hard to keep people away.
Oh yeah, from them.
Well, I don't think that it being separate is what it was. It was just cutting it off with that rock is what gave her that power.
So even if you put it next to it, like the bone, that doesn't reattach it.
So B, I mean, you're trying to apply logic to a movie that you have to suspend all
listen,
logic on.
I'm telling you, part 3, it's gonna blow your mind.
I
Part
think
3 is going to be the best of the 3.
Yeah.
So that's a running theory anyway, right? So they found the hand. Now they're trying to locate the body. They don't know where the body is, essentially, right?
Well, no, they know where the body is. Oh, well, no. Yeah, this is 1978.
Yes,
that.
they don't.
78, they don't know where the body is. Yeah.
They don't know where the body is, and essentially at the end,
you jumped over my second favorite kill though.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Because Alice is the one who finds the hand, and so Alice, Ziggy, and Cindy are all just standing there and they're hatching this plan, right? Because this is when Tommy, who is the possessed killer, Cindy, who is his girlfriend, cuts his head off with a shovel. Like, I mean, she got some superhuman strength because it wasn't like, she wasn't swinging at him. She just pushed it through his neck. But so Alex, Cindy, and Ziggy are talking. They're hatching this plan. They've got the hand. We're gonna go and find they're gonna find the body, and they're gonna reunite the hand with the body.
Yeah.
And they're like, they're kind of psyching each other up. Like, okay, we're gonna do this. This is gonna be over. Alice turns around and catches an axe to the chest.
Just shut all of their momentum down, bro.
Yeah.
That's like watching somebody in the playoffs go on a major run, and then somebody like Steph or Trae Young just hits a 3 and it's a dagger. Like,
you know what to me though? It was like Deep Blue Sea. Sam gives that big inspirational speech. He's got everybody pumped up. We're gonna survive, and that shark comes up out that water and eats him whole.
Oh yeah.
Everybody was like, okay.
I couldn't believe they snatched Sam up like that. And the CG just looked so bad, but I was just in shock. Like, what did they do to my mans?
I was in shock because I was like, why am I watching this movie now?
Like, right, there's no point in me watching the rest of this movie. I was only watching it because he was there.
Yeah. So another detail that what was I going to say? There's another detail. What was there was something else.
There was also 3 killers at the end when they were about to kill both of the sisters, Ziggy and
So okay. That's what I was gonna say.
There were 4 at the end.
So
who was the kid with the bat?
So
go ahead.
Okay. They got the hand. I mean, the unfortunate thing that happened to Alice's side, they still got to go through with the plan, right? So they take the hand to where the map says the body is. They're digging the hole, and both of them, it's Cindy and Ziggy, and they look up and they see Axeman come in, and they're like, "Oh, just keep digging." And they look up, and Ruby Lane is coming from another direction. They're like, "Oh, just keep digging." And then they look up, and there's a kid with a bat, and then there's an older guy who I forget what kind of weapon he had, but they're coming at him.
He was a pastor. He was a pastor.
Yeah, right. They were coming at him every which angle, and they're just like, keep digging. keep digging. They hit something, they think, okay, we got the bones, but it's actually just the rock. It's Satan's rock. Yeah,
that's used to cut her hand off. Yeah, and it said that he gave Sarah Fear eternal life or whatever. Yeah. And so the bones aren't there, and Cindy realizes, hey, they're coming for Ziggy. They're trying to kill her because she had blood on her or whatever. And she's like, hey, just run. And Cindy decides she's going to sacrifice herself for her sister, which was kind of a big deal because they didn't get along at all. Yeah. They hated each other a little bit throughout the course of the movie. But she's like, I'm gonna sacrifice myself for you. She tells her to run, and Cindy tries to fight the Axeman, fight Tommy.
Yeah.
She goes down real quick. I'm not
Yeah,
gonna lie.
yeah,
Like, she didn't get no hits in.
Listen, man, I don't have that type of beef with my actual siblings, but I ain't taking an axe to the chest for them.
Well, you know, and it was all for naught because Ziggy got caught as well.
It kind of was.
Ziggy get caught. Ziggy got caught feet away.
Yeah,
like she didn't get very far. Like
they ended up like laid out right next to each other.
They were right next to each
They were
other.
almost able to hold hands as they were getting stabbed.
It was a nice scene. I mean, not nice, but
yeah,
Ziggy's laying down. She's getting stabbed. I'll give it that. Yeah, she's getting stabbed by the pastor. Cindy is a few feet away from her. She's getting hit in the chest repeatedly with the axe, and they're reaching out to each other like, "Hey, nobody will be able to separate us again," because they made up.
He thought he was going to go for the head, like, because didn't that happen in Alex's vision? Like, she had a vision when she touched the little organ or whatever, and it showed Cindy getting her head smashed in on the ground. So I thought that was the scene where that was actually going to happen too. I'm glad it didn't because, like I said, that actress, like, she really killed it. I liked her character a lot. And I didn't want to see her face get like exploded into a million pieces, but
right.
Yeah.
So at this point, they both die, and the killers disappear. And lo and behold, the worthless sheriff shows up.
Comes the sheriff.
Doesn't check on Cindy, mind you. Doesn't even look at her. Immediately goes to
he got the back of his knee hacked at with an axe. Like, if you're talking about Giannis making a comeback, it has nothing on Nick Good coming back minutes after getting the back of his knee sliced open with an axe, bro.
Yeah.
He goes to Ziggy, starts doing CPR, brings her back. And so everybody's thinking
CPR wouldn't work in that situation.
That's a common theme, right? Like the first movie, the first person needed CPR. You give her EpiPens to the chest. The second movie, that person needs like actual medical attention, and you're like CPR. Like,
are you gonna get somebody hanged in 1666 and then give them smelling salts? Like, bro, that's not how this works.
Like, I honestly like
him pressing on her chest would have shot all the blood out of her body. Like,
this is quicker. Right. And this is where that goosebump feel kind of comes into play, because I almost felt like he might as well just said, just tagged her and said, "Okay, back alive," right? And just let her jump back up. Like,
this is the part in bad movies
that's
where it's
movies in a row where that's like they're not supposed to bring someone back that way. Yeah. They just wake up out of nowhere.
In bad movies, this is usually the part where it's true love's first kiss brings you back.
It
doesn't make any sense, but whatever.
That's essentially what it is.
Forget these 19 stab wounds in my body. Like, I'm Paul Pierce.
To the chest, too.
That pastor was not slowing down, man. Like, he was going at it.
Yeah. So I did want to point out one thing, though. I did want to point out one thing. In the first movie, the three monsters that are going after the teenagers, one of them was the boyfriend from this movie, right? He has a sack over his head because early in the movie, when he's trying to get to Ziggy, she takes like a potato sack and tosses over his head. Because at this point, he's still technically alive. He's not dead yet, right? Cindy ends up killing him, and that's when he kind of turns into like a monster, a zombie, or whatever. So that's why he walks around with a sack on his head in the first one.
Yeah.
The
second said a callback to, I believe it was part 2 of Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
This movie did a good job of like explaining some of the parts of the first one too.
Yep, exactly. Ruby Lane, she was another one that was in the first one with she was sitting on the street and and she cussed the dude.
And Simon, who is just, as Dragonfly Jones on Twitter would say, dangerously horny, walked up to just some random girl sitting on the street.
Whistling, like, damn. She's sitting there, like, the
singing
thing
her
from
song.
The Ring with their hair over her face. Like, bro, if you don't get the hell out of here.
Mm-hmm. And then the kid and the preacher were also mentioned in the first one as well. And they showed them that in the second one. So that's pretty much it. So she gets taken out of there. When they ask when Paramedics asked Ziggy like what her name is, Good tells him like she's Cindy, right? Because he kind of understands that. All right.
Well, no, he told her her real name. He said
it was her real
she's
name. It was Christine, I think.
Christine.
But
Okay.
it just starts with the C also. That's
okay.
But what Sheriff Good did mess up, it was just why he turns out to be that kind of jerk that Deshawn was talking about. Is she tells him what happened. Obviously he was there for most of it. He knows what happened, and she's like, it was the witch. It's real. And when the police ask him about it, he's like, yeah, Tommy went crazy.
Yeah.
All goes under the rug.
And also in the first movie, we didn't discuss this either. There's another little detail, and it's kind of a jerk move, right? Because you let her just leave her out there and let people think she's just crazy, right? And when all the killings were going on, he goes to her house and leaves a note saying it's happening again.
Yeah.
Like he believed it the whole time, but he's just gonna write her off, and it's just like you got two adults that are complicit in all this stuff that's going on. The
adults are the worst parts of this movie.
Yeah.
Again, like I was saying, he knows that he's not going to be sheriff of this town if he goes around talking about these ghost stories, essentially. And he was like, hey,
but you want to be the sheriff of the murder capital? Because isn't that another thing they say? That's like the murder capital.
From Sunnyvale.
Yeah.
It's nothing's gonna happen.
Keep the killing on that side. He's dead. Yeah.
She's only going after shady siders.
Still close enough.
Yeah.
So very end of the movie, C. Berman, Ziggy, finishes telling Dina and Josh the story, and they're like, "We know where the body is." And they know they ask her where the hand is, if it's still buried under that tree.
Well, to cut you off real quick. Because this is C. Berman telling them that there's no hope, and just being a real Debbie Downer about things, and because they thought they had all the answers, right? Like, hey, we tried everything and there's no hope, and Dina's just like, well, you didn't find a body. Well, we found a body, and she's like, right. Oh, there is hope. Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
I've just been sitting here in this town for 20 years after it happened and didn't think to go look for the body anywhere.
Shady side really breaks the wills of people.
Right. Yeah.
Like it really does, yeah.
So at this point, the mall is actually built around that hanging tree, which mistake, right? Yeah. Like why? Why is that a monument that you're trying to preserve? But the tree is still there. That
doesn't even structurally make sense. That means you'd have to build an entire mall around an old tree that was known for starting a curse in your town.
Not only was it known for starting a curse, you also had the massacre in 1978 there.
Yeah, and literally.
It was right then when you decided, let's build a mall.
This tree is a part of the only historical significance this tree holds is 2 massacres.
Yeah. So Dina and Josh, they're like, okay, well, we know where the body is. Let's go see if the hand is still buried under this tree. So they go to the mall, they get the hand, they go back to where the body is from the beginning of the first movie where when Sam and the Sunnyvalers crash their car. They dig up the body. Dina puts the hand back, and so she's touching all the bones, and then she gets a vision, and she sees herself in 1666. Which is the setting for the next movie. Yeah, she sees herself as Sarah Fear.
Yeah. So, okay. Yeah, and in the like the post credit or like preview for the next movie, you see a bunch of the characters playing different people from that setting, right? Mm-hmm. I don't think it's a recast. I don't think they're telling the story just recasting they're being different people. I think they are themselves living out that what's going on, those events from that time.
Yeah, because that kind of made me wonder how Sarah Fear would have a black younger brother.
Yeah.
Especially in 1666 of all times. Like.
My thing is, I thought initially that it was just these are descendants of the people who were there at the time when they murdered Sarah Fear.
That would be it makes most sense.
And Sarah Fear is Dina. She is a descendant of Sarah Fear, and I think that the townspeople killed the wrong person. And so she's haunting him, and she's trying to kill all of those people who were there, right? And I think that the people who were there and their descendants, they're the ones who can't leave Shady Side.
That's
And
another
it
thing
just
we
kind of
didn't mention
seems
too.
like there's all these things kind of conspiring against them or whatever, but they really can't leave.
That's another thing too. Like she, Seraphia has like a hit list, right?
Yeah.
Like on this, she carves out the names of people that she wants to kill in stone.
Yeah, we did forget to mention that's how Nurse Lane knew that Tommy was going to die, because she was down in the witches area and she saw his name on the stone
right under her daughters.
Wall.
Now, speaking of Nurse Lane, I was going to mention it earlier. I kind of googled the cast from both movies. She's playing the same person. She's Nurse Lane in the second movie. In the first one, she's Mrs. Lane. So, because when I saw her show up and they're like Nurse Lane, I was just like, isn't that the same one that she dropped the kids off to? So she has another. There's something up with her. There's something going on with her, because she seemed normal, and she had some line.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, it was only 16 years later, right? Like, she didn't die in part 2.
No, I'm saying like there's more going on with her character.
Maybe. But I'm saying, like, it was 78. She got arrested, and then in 1994 she was there. She was one of the 5 adults in the town.
I think she plays a big role because, again, like, her daughter was one of the one of the killers, and she was obsessed with finding out the truth, right? She didn't go from that to just it's all good now, right? Like, right. Also, you mentioned the black dude that got put into jail. There was something that he did at the end of the first movie. I don't know if you guys remember. He asked Josh to help him out, and Josh handed him that paper clip to get out of his cuffs, and he handed him a card. He said, "I owe you one." He handed him a card. I think that's going to play into the third movie as well too. You're going to find out a little bit more about his character.
Yeah.
Oh, word. Okay.
Yeah. So, and if not, then that'd be one of the worst scenes I ever seen. What a
biggest waste of time ever.
Because he doesn't show you the card. There are 3 people. There are 3 people that I think are going to play a major role in the third movie, and there's going to be some twists. I think it's going to be Nurse Lane. It's going to be the black dude, and it's going to be the person that Josh keeps talking to online, because you don't know who it is.
What if that black dude was that person?
I think.
Oh yeah, maybe. Yeah. But they never show you what's on the card. And I feel like later on he's gonna look at the card and it's gonna have some information on it. It's gonna be critical to stopping.
I still want to just at least know what these kids' father looks like. Jesus Christ, where is this guy?
You're gonna get to movie 3 and you're gonna find out that no, it's not a real town, and there aren't any adults there. And like it's just there. Like you said, maybe it's just them reliving, over and over and over and over, while Dina is trying to hunt all of them down, and she's just a really inefficient killer. Like, we'll see. Or the curse is that you have to just keep reliving it, and I'm just going to kill you forever.
I mean, that would be cool, but I don't know, man. Like I said, I think it will be
in a lot of different ways.
Yeah. There's definitely going to be some plot holes. Like, just accept the fact that there's going to be a bunch of holes in this movie.
You can't expect
and you'll be fine with it.
all of your questions to be answered at the third one. Like, you're going to leave with some questions still, and you're just going to have to live with it, like Bird Box.
Yeah.
Like, that's one of those things. Some questions we'll just never have the answer to.
Mm-hmm.
True.
That's why Sunnyvalers don't like going to Shady Side. They're like, why do we gotta go to Murder Town? I don't like that.
I'm not gonna lie, I'd keep my distance from them too if they were known for murder.
So overall, I think they did a good job. Like I said, they didn't take themselves too seriously. They had fun with the movie, and they're telling an interesting enough story to keep me engaged in what's going on. And I usually don't like the week to week thing. Like, me and B talk about this all the time. Like before, like the Disney Plus shows, right? We're not a big fan of week to week series. We want everything all at once. Yeah, but the way they did it for this, I think helps them out. All right.
Yeah, I was actually going to mention that too, because we talked about it when we were on For Chris's Sake. If you're not following them on Watt Real Entertainment, go ahead and subscribe.
Yeah.
And they were saying that it gives you the chance, week to week gives you a chance to have the conversation and really think about the shows and everything, and that's fine. It's true for a handful of shows that everybody's watching together. With something like this, if it was not coming out every Friday, like they weren't putting out the next movie every Friday, I would not have watched part 2.
No,
but
I forgot about it.
Yeah, as it is, I enjoyed part 1, I enjoyed part 2, and I'm actually pretty excited to see the conclusion on Friday.
Yeah.
So, I really like the idea, like the rollout is different than what you normally see. Like I said, it's 3 weeks back to back to back. You don't really see, like, even though they're not big budget films, you don't see really like 3 full length films come out within a week of each other, and they're all the same trilogy. So I really do want to give them props for like thinking outside the box, doing something different. Like I said, the lady that wrote and directed this did a great job aesthetically, like directing it. Writing, not so much, but like I said, you can only expect so much from a Netflix film. And I am really intrigued. I do predict the third one will be the best of the 3, because I think the first one did the best job as far as visuals go. I think the second one did a better job writing than the first one did, and I think the third one hopefully will tie it together, because it seemed like each of the first 2 were like really low budget. Like you could go to a small town and see that they filmed this in the back ends of Utah somewhere, but the third one is really going way back. And I remember like when I was telling y'all how the further back in time you go with horror movies, the more scary options you have. I think this is going to be one of those ones that can really be a horror film. Like the first 2 were kind of like lighthearted, watered down, like Nickelodeon versions of horror movies, but this one can really be like a horror film if they decide to go that route. And I wouldn't be mad if they did, because that's what I prefer, but I'm not mad at the direction they have gone, because they've done a good job with it.
Even from part 1 to part 2, I think they got a bit more graphic. Part 1, there wasn't a whole, I mean, there was some violence obviously, but it wasn't
a lot of off-screen kills.
Yeah, it wasn't very explicit. In part 2, it was more mature in every way. There was a lot more gore. There were sex scenes and things like that. And I think that they're going to continue that in part 3. I think it's going to be, like you said, the most horror-like film of the 3.
Yeah. So for 2 guys that aren't really into horror, I mean, we're enjoying the series so far, and that's a surprise, because I didn't really think it was going to be something that I like, because I was never a fan of Scream or I Know What You Did Last Summer, or any of those type of movies growing up, but it's fun. It's like I said, I like movies that like, hey, just suspend all belief, enjoy it. We can tease the silly parts of it and just discuss it. Like those are fun. Like there's quality in that. Not every movie has to be a great movie.
I think it says something when you can, like you said, you guys aren't the biggest horror fans, but when you can take a movie that you can obviously tell is this specific genre and reach fans of other genres that don't necessarily bang with that vibe. So I think that is a testament to how good they did do the release and the cinematography and the aesthetic. And so when you can reach other fans from other genres too, that's always a bonus.
Yeah, no, for sure. All right, well, that's part 1 and part 2 review. Part 3 is coming out this Friday, and afterwards, the 3 of us will get back together to talk about the conclusion. But let us know what you think in the comments. Are you liking it so far? What do you like? What do you dislike? What are the details that you notice? What are your fan theories for part 3 and how it's going to conclude? But all right, Deshawn, pleasure having you on. We're going to see you soon. All right, and we're going to see y'all next time. Peace out.
Peace out, bros.